An Oklahoma police chief was recorded during a recent Citizen Police Academy bragging about how much fun it was to attack protesters against police brutality. So, doing brutality against people who are against brutality. Let me show you some audio here.
Don't get caught up. That's what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Is this us versus them thing. Left versus right, white versus black. That's all crap. That's all crap. It is people who love this country and are willing to follow the law or make changes to the law against people who hate this country and want it to look more like the old Soviet Union or China. And some of those people, you know what? Andy and I, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was fun. When the anti-police riots started and they hit Tulsa, this is not Oregon or Seattle. You act retarded here, we will smoke your ass. Right? And so I get to be undercover around a bunch of people at 71st and Memorial, and when they start breaking windows, it was beautiful. Because we're driving around going, here's some, come get them, SWAT boys. Right? Like spanking a bunch of unruly kids.
It's beautiful. Like spanking a bunch of unruly kids. I couldn't wait to go and crack skulls. It was so fun. It was so fun. I was looking forward to it. You know what he's talking about? He's talking about largely peaceful protesters during the protests in 2020. This is after George Floyd was murdered by a police officer. Again, 93% peaceful. Now, look, an analysis actually found that the overwhelming majority of those protests of people that were arrested in 15 cities during these protests, you know the cities that right-wingers claimed that they burnt down. Antifa, BLM, they burnt down the entire cities. Minneapolis no longer exists anymore. It's just a giant pile of ash. No, that's not true at all. In fact, look, not only did the entire city's not burned down, because it's absolutely ridiculous to claim that, but the majority that were arrested in these cities were actually for nonviolent misdemeanors. Like, for example, charges of violating curfew and violating emergency orders. And the vast majority of those people actually also had their charges dropped. But of course, cops are like loving to arrest people, to treat peaceful protesters as rioters and actually start things. In fact, here's a quote here from Edward McGuire, professor of criminal justice at Arizona State University. He said this, quote, "When it comes to civil disorder, officers are trained to handle riots. They are not trained to handle peaceful demonstrations or even mostly peaceful protests. They often show up to crowd control events that are not yet riots and then handle them as if they were riots." So, yeah, you can kind of understand that when the cops roll up in giant, in body armor with giant shields and start chucking, tear gas into the protests, into the protesters, then you can understand how the protesters will then start throwing rocks and fighting back, throwing tear gas canisters back at the police who have escalated the situation. And then this is where you get a lot of the arrests. Cops will then come in and sweep everyone out after they started the whole thing. So this is what happens. Not in every situation, but it happens a lot, especially when you're dealing with black people. When you're dealing with anti-police brutality protests. They instigate. They do mass arrests. They escalate. And it's due to the training. Now, back to this training. This was given by a Sergeant M. Griffin and Lieutenant Andy McKenzie. So I said police chief. I was wrong on that. So making that correction here. Now, the person who had leaked this video, and it's great that they did, because this is what they honestly believe. They said that they were uncomfortable with what was said and had begun to record the rest of the training. So there was more. There was more disturbing stuff enough to where the person's like, I got to record this. All right. In fact, here's a little bit more of that. The end of this video.
And here's what I want you to know. 90% of that crowd were white.
Yeah, I agree.
The dumb white kid who thinks playing video games with purple hairs is his life's goal, he's a bigger problem. Right? He'll tell you this. I'm not just saying this to you. He has heard me say this many times. Nothing is more dangerous to America than a liberal white person.
Nothing is more dangerous to America than a liberal white person. Wow. So, the young person with the purple hair that likes playing video games. That's the danger to society. That's the problem. Not the resurgence of Christian white nationalism, which is Nazis. Not the anti-government groups who have literally murdered police officers. Not the MAGA chuds who beat up police in the Capitol building. What about the people who drove through crowds of peaceful protesters? Which happened in Tulsa. And which happened in Charlottesville. Heather Heyer killed, ran over by an insane racist. But no, the real danger is the young white liberal that is out there marching for social justice. That's the person. You better watch out for those people. Those people are dangerous. And you know what? They're actually right. They are dangerous because young white liberals are allies. They're threatened by these people because guess what? Having white people become allies and march in favor of black people threatens the social order. It looks real bad when you mace for example, a young white woman in the face. And that gets caught on TV. A lot of people are going to take the side of the young white woman, aren't they? That's what's happening all across the country. Or police. They're getting in trouble. They're getting filmed going after younger people who are protesting, not just younger people, by the way, but people who are protesting against police brutality. Most of the country didn't care when it happened to only black people. And you start getting white people involved. Well, that's when people start to notice. That's why it's important for white people to be allies. And so, yes, this does threaten the police social order. They are allies and are no longer content to sit by and let black and brown peers be murdered by racist police officers. That's the real danger here. And that's why Tulsa, in Tulsa, the driver who ran to the crowd, by the way, the fact that, we have racist police officers, that driver didn't get in trouble. Seriously injured 3 people by driving into a crowd. Police in Tulsa declined to press charges. And the legislature actually later on passed a law granting immunity to drivers in a law that claimed that, you could protect yourself if you're fleeing a riot. You're fleeing a riot, you can run over anyone else. By the way, we're not going to really define what a riot is. We're going to leave that loose definition. Great. What that means is that in Oklahoma, it's open season on protesters. Unless, of course, you're right wing. Now, that said, let me give you the Tulsa Police Department, who responded in a statement after this had happened. This came out earlier today. From the communications unit, Chief Franklin was made aware of comments made by a Tulsa police supervisor at a training session during the Citizens Police Academy on October 18th, 2020. During this training session, the supervisor expressed several personal opinions that are not acceptable for any Tulsa police officer to present as representation of the department. I got news for you. I think a lot of them share that same opinion. Chief Franklin has initiated an investigation into the incident, and the supervisor has been moved from their normal assignment and placed on administrative restrictive duty. So they get a nice little break from doing police work, but are still being paid. Quote from Chief Franklin: "I and members of the Tulsa Police Department stand committed to the citizens of Tulsa. We persevere to be a professional law enforcement agency in all aspects of our service. We take an oath as the Tulsa police officers to respect the dignity and rights of every individual. And any violation of that oath will be closely scrutinized and corrective action taken if appropriate. I am aware other police personnel may have been present. If the investigation reveals any police personnel failed in their duties, they will be held accountable. So basically, they're going to investigate themselves. Well, we all know how that's going to turn out. When police generally are allowed to investigate themselves, they usually let themselves go. I know, big shocker, right? Big shocker. They usually find out that they did nothing wrong. What a great system that we have. But maybe, maybe things will be different there. We'll see. But judging by the history of the Tulsa Police Department and the racist history in Tulsa, I'm going to guess that probably nothing will happen. And this guy will be back on the beat in no time.